With Rachel Vigil, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel Vigil.
Just got done posting a really sweet video over on my Twitter account. Peyton Watson gifting his little brother a car for his birthday, which I always love these videos. It makes me so happy and they're so fun to watch. And he had the big red bow, and we're going to get into the Denver Nuggets here in just a little bit. But of course, we have to talk about Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos, what they did at the draft experience, all of it. We're also going to get into a little bit about the Colorado Avalanche. It's just me today, a solo episode, so please join in on the comments. I already see some of them coming in. Happy high noon. Hello, happy Monday. Thank you for hanging so much with us. Yeah, we got to talk Bo Nix, though. Let's get into it. Should new quarterback Bo Nix start week 1 for the Denver Broncos? It's the easiest answer ever. Yes. Why would you not start him? He's the future. You took him in the first round for a reason. Of course, this isn't a Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix Jr. situation. You don't have a quarterback. Zach Wilson's not going to be the quarterback of the future. Jarrett Stidham's not the quarterback of the future. You drafted Bo Nix for a reason. Sean Payton clearly loves Bo Nix. We're going to get into all of the stories going on behind the scenes right now. He clearly loves him. There should be no quarterback competition. I've been really thinking about it, of why the Broncos went after Zach Wilson. And I'm like, okay, what's the reason? It doesn't make any sense with it happening just days before the draft. So I'm really trying to dial in. And I realized that it is probably because they weren't sure if they were going to get Bo Nix. They weren't sure if they were going to get Bo Nix or JJ McCarthy. You never know how the draft boards are going to fall. So the Jets obviously probably would have asked for a little bit more when it came to Zach Wilson. If you knew you weren't going to, say it's post-draft, say it's today, and you're calling and you're like, hey, what's the price for Zach Wilson? And they're like, hey, I know you didn't get your quarterback, so we're going to bump that price up just a little bit. Clearly, Jarrett Stidham didn't do enough to impress Sean Payton, so they were trying to find another backup QB, which is Zach Wilson. I'm not really on board. I don't think we're going to see much of Zach Wilson. I know training camp's going to be 50-50, Zach Wilson versus Bo Nix. What's that going to look like? Throw a little dabble of Jarrett Stidham in there. You roll with Bo Nix no matter what week 1. Like I said, he's your number 1 pick in the first round. You got to take it. He is the guy that you went after in the first round. You roll with him. Also, thinking back to draft night, I've told this story multiple times, but I was so torn between Brock Bowers and Bo Nix, so I don't have to relive that. I was like, I don't know what you do. Take one of the best players out of the draft, or you go after the need for a quarterback. The Broncos did the right thing by going after a quarterback. Sometimes when you get something shiny in front of you, you're like, ooh, maybe I should take that instead of what I actually need. And that's what I wanted the Broncos to do in a sense. But now that I've had time to remove myself, I'm really happy that they went with Bo Nix. I've talked highly about him, but everyone is on the whole, oh, the Broncos really wanted JJ McCarthy, yada, yada, yada. And then Sean Payton, of course, in the press conference afterwards, yeah, I kind of baited, Minnesota into that, thinking we were going to move up, etc. I did not believe that for a minute, right? I've had time to process all of this. I didn't believe that to begin with. I was like, no, I think you kind of did want to move up for JJ McCarthy, and just didn't happen. Things weren't falling that way. Minnesota had more to offer, etc. I really, truthfully did believe that. I was like, I just don't think so. And now the only reason that I do believe that that was actually the case is because Adam Schefter, before the draft started, had gone out and said, Sean Payton has never drafted a quarterback in the first round. And he talks about how Patrick Mahomes really haunted him and how Sean Payton looks at Bo Nix that way. The insiders all know. Most of those guys are going to know leading up to the draft about what they're actually going to do. They're not going to spill all the tea because you have to keep those relationships intact. But I thought it was fascinating that he talks about Patrick Mahomes and then Bo Nix in the same thing before the Broncos took Bo Nix. And I said, you know what? It was Bo Nix all along. We're not getting played here, everybody. We actually have to believe what they're saying. It was Bo Nix all along. JJ McCarthy was not who they wanted, and they really did play Minnesota. Now, when I look at professional relationships, I am kind of fascinated with the fact that Sean Payton comes out and says, we kind of played Minnesota a little bit. I'm like, you guys all have buddies up there. Unless this happens all the time and they all do it, which I'm sure they do. I thought it was weird that they came out and just announced and they were like, yeah, kind of messed with the system a little bit to make them trade up, to make them have to give away some stuff. I don't know. It feels a little dirty to me. I'm sure they all do it. But the fact that you come out and you tell, you fib on yourself a little bit and tell the lie was kind of unique for me. So I want to read some of your guys' comments again. Just a solo episode today. We're going to just have fun, talk a little bit about everything. You can't just hand it to Bo Nix. He's got to compete for the starting job. Why? Why does he have to compete for it? Unless he's going to come out and be absolutely terrible. You picked him number 12 overall. Like, all of these quarterbacks are pretty much going to see the field at some point. So, yeah, maybe you don't announce it and say, hey, he's 100% going to be starting, but he should start. You put your future on Bo Nix. Like, yeah, it's great that you took him at 12, and I'm really glad you didn't have to trade up for it. I've been reading so many articles about how, yeah, he's technically shouldn't have gone at 12. It was a quote-unquote arrogant pick to take him at 12. It was, but you had no choice. After Penix went off the board, you were like, what happens if some other team jumps up and tries to take him because he's the last bet? You just have to. You weren't going to take Spencer Rattler. So Bo Nix makes sense, but it makes sense to start him. He's played in college for 5 years. He had good 5 years of starting. So put him out there. Put him out there. See what he can do. They've been talking all about it. George Paton and Sean Payton about how he is the most NFL-ready quarterback because of his age, because of the 5 years that he played in college. Get him ready to go. Sean Payton's legacy depends on how Bo Nix plays. Have you guys thought about that? It's kind of crazy. His entire legacy is going to either be, it's the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick conversation. It's the Sean Payton, Drew Brees. Was it Drew Brees or was it Tom Brady? Was it Belichick or was it Sean Payton? Sean Payton has to prove something with Bo Nix, and if he fails and he flops, that's Sean Payton's legacy right there. Think about that. The impact that the number 12 pick that we saw on Thursday night has to do with an entire man's legacy of what it's going to look like because he failed with Russell Wilson. Now, if you're a Ben DiNucci fan, I've said this multiple times. I'm sorry. We love you. We've appreciated your time here in Denver, but it's over because you got 3 quarterbacks and you paid a lot for Jarrett Stidham, which still blows my mind at how much they paid and shows you how much they didn't believe in Russell Wilson. You got Zach Wilson, who you trade for just days before the draft, and then you bring in Bo Nix. Now, I've learned a lot about Bo Nix since they've drafted him. I knew a little bit about him, right? We knew he had the arm strength. He had some accuracy. I know that they dove into the analytics and removed the bubble passes, the bubble screens, and just tried to, really figure out if he could be the quarterback. He's good at throwing it down the middle, which was something Russell Wilson struggled with. And I've learned a lot more just about Bo Nix and his personality overall. And I do think he's going to be a good fit. I learned about his brother, his adopted brother, who technically wasn't actually adopted, but he showed up one day at the Nix families. He didn't have a good home situation, and he just never left. Like, that makes you a little bit excited. I'm excited about the wide receiver combo in Bo Nix. I'm excited to see what it's going to look like. Does he have to earn the starting job, quote unquote? Yeah, you have to because you got 3 other quarterbacks in your room. But Bo Nix should start week 1 for the Denver Broncos. Of course, if he goes out there and completely fumbles the bag and he looks terrible in training camp, then yeah, you can't do that and you need to give him a little bit more time. But Bo Nix should take this very seriously because he's the future of the Denver Broncos. And it's here, everybody. I'm so excited about it. I can't believe it. And the whole Troy Franklin thing it's crazy to me as well. I love that they're already going to have that chemistry lined up, ready to go week 1. Now, do I think he's going to see a bunch of times? No. Do I hope that Bo sits down with a Cortland Sutton or Tim Patrick and we see a lot of work out of those guys? Of course. But the fact that there's already chemistry and you can throw them out there and they're going to know certain routes, I love that so much. So I was really happy with everything that the Broncos did with the draft. And again, I just think I don't know. I just think it's fun, right? I was so sick of talking about all the mock drafts and what are the Denver Broncos going to do? And I know you guys were tweeting at me and DMing me being like, Rachel, I know you're sick of this, but how about this? I'm just happy we finally have our answers. Like, things are finally answered and we are ready to go. And mini camps are going to start here so soon. I can't believe that literally we have 2 more days of April. This entire month flew by. Now it's May and training camp's going to be here before we know it. So I'm just so excited. Going back to some of your guys' comments. Let's see. I hear you, Rachel, but what if Zach Wilson clearly beats Nix? Not saying it will happen, but it's a possibility. It totally is a possibility, but I think you have to kind of just look at what Bo Nix is a first-round draft pick. Like, that's why you take him. I think you would have to see crazy differences between the two to start Zach Wilson. And maybe that's just because I'm really not that high on Zach Wilson. Maybe he will go out there and he just wasn't in the right system for him. And Sean Payton's going to be a much better fit for Zach Wilson. But ultimately, this is going to sound really bad, Broncos country. Please don't get mad at me. I'll be shocked if this team makes the playoffs. This is going to be like a 500 team. I will be shocked if they somehow make the playoffs. So I feel like you just got to roll with your future. I don't know. I think Zach Wilson would have to go out there and put up incredible throws, some incredible numbers early on in the preseason, and then you could do it. Do I think Sean Payton, no matter what, is going to do with whoever looks better? 100%. But I also think it's going to depend on the scheme that Sean Payton wants to run, right? Like who can best complete that and make a full rounded team of what Sean Payton's offense is going to look like. That's who he's going to put out. Maybe even if it's not 100%, like everything's golden, we're getting A pluses and stars and all sorts of stuff, but whoever can run the most like full rounded system, I think that's who will end up going out there week 1. So I get your point. Don't get me wrong. But I think Zach Wilson would have to look a lot better. Everyone's talking about like the age and how I think Zach Wilson's like 6 months older than Bo Nix or whatever. They're practically the same age. But yes, Zach Wilson obviously has more NFL experience, but he's also been burned by the NFL a few more times. So let's see. What number is Bo going to wear? I've been waiting for this answer as well. I do not know what number he's going to wear. Quarterbacks can only wear like a certain number, obviously, in the NFL. And I think there's only like 2 of those numbers left. I think one of them is 19. I can't remember the other one off the top of my head, but I'll be interested to see. Or will somebody be like, hey, I'll buy it off of you? I don't know if Bo Nix had any NIL deals like back in college. I'm sure he had a few. Like, of course, he went in the first round. So he probably had a few. So it's interesting that the NIL kind of comes into play here because they've got the money already. It's not like you're coming in and you're a rookie and you have no money. Like a lot of these players are coming in there having the money. Also, Caleb Williams, I just want to say this. He's already being a little cocky, which don't get me wrong. First of all, he was great out at the draft. I didn't have the chance to sit down and interview him because all the Chicago people and all of the networks were there, obviously, but I did get to see him interact with a lot of people. He was so respectful and so nice. And I thought that he handled himself wonderfully. But the fact that that text is coming out that he's texting his punter, the rookie punter, that like he's not going to need him much this season and he's not going to be punting. I'm like, Caleb Williams, like you may be a great quarterback, don't get me wrong, and you have some good talent around you, some out there in Chicago, but like let's pump the brakes a little bit. You don't want that to come back on like cold takes or whatever it is and haunt you for the rest of your career either. So I don't know. So, do you think he can throw deep? Because people are saying he can't throw long balls. Yes, he can throw deep. He had a few of those. I know everybody's talking about how he did the bubble screens, the short passes. He can throw up the middle, which is also going to be major. The one difference and the thing I've heard mostly is that the pocket protection and the protection that Bo Nix had at Oregon was really, really solid. And people are wondering, how is that going to transfer over to the NFL? The Broncos offensive line has obviously struggled in years past. So, how will he be able to handle a pocket that is collapsing on him and being able to wait and hold out for the wide receivers to make it however many yards they need to on the plays? That will be the one thing that we're paying attention to at training camp and in preseason is how he can handle that pressure. Sean Payton clearly saw something that they really liked out of him, and he can handle that. And that's something also I feel like it comes with being calm and being able to play your own game. And that is something we have to give Russell Wilson a lot of credit for. When something was collapsing, yes, sometimes he did put himself back in positions where he could get sacked, but he was able to remain calm and be able to find players down the field. And I think that Bo Nix will just have to find that like quote unquote zen a little bit and be able to stay calm and know the play is going to play out and just have to be able to protect himself for just a little bit of time. NFL moves a lot faster. That's always the hardest thing when it comes from players that are transferring from college going up to the pros. And you hear it all the time that they've got to adjust to the quickness of the game. So I'm sure they're already going to get working on that. And he's going to have to get used to feeling a little bit more pressure because, yeah, Oregon had a pretty good, solid offensive line for sure. Let's see. People really do not like Caleb Williams. That's one thing I've like really learned is people are not in on Caleb Williams at all. It cracks me up. People are like, Caleb is Cam 2.0 from the neck up. Forget the Bears. It's about the Broncos right now. Trust me, it is. But just after being at the draft and seeing how big Caleb Williams was and all of that stuff, I just had to talk about it a little bit. The draft was such a fun experience. We heard and learned so much. I will say that was one of the things, though, is why I thought the Broncos were 100% going to go for JJ McCarthy because that's who everybody was linking them to. So they did a great job. If they really didn't want to go with JJ and Bo Nix was their guy, they had convinced everybody else that they had wanted JJ, which you tell who you want to tell certain things and then you give other people other information and try and mess with the system a little bit. And let me tell you, everybody I talked to out there said the Broncos and JJ McCarthy were it. And if they couldn't get JJ, then they were going to try and get Bo Nix later on in the draft, like later on down in the 20s. But of course, as soon as Penix went, everything up just blew up. And essentially you had to go get Bo Nix because you didn't know what was going to happen. Like nobody expected Penix Jr. to go off the board. I still have that video. If you go check out my social media, I'm literally like floored. Everybody in the media room was like, I cannot believe that this is happening. So, you guys, I can't believe it's already been 15 minutes just talking about Bo Nix and the Broncos. That's crazy. Things went so fast. So I do want to move on. We got to talk a little bit about the Nuggets. I said after game one with the hot start that came out for the Lakers, that the Lakers were going to win 1 or 2 games out there in LA. I really did. I thought that was going to happen. They obviously went on Saturday night. And everyone's like, I'm not concerned about this series, but I am concerned about how the Nuggets looked. And they just didn't seem like they had the energy for a quote unquote closeout game. The season is really long. And yes, I understand it was a closed out game. Like you got to win. But probably in the Nuggets' eyes, they knew if they had to come back to Denver and play another game, it wasn't going to be the end of the world. You got the crowd going for you at that point. So I'm not worried about it. However, the Timberwolves are looking really solid. I am worried about that series, especially because one of the big differences between last year in the Western Conference Finals between the Lakers and the Nuggets and this year against the Lakers is the 3-point percentage shooting. The Nuggets have not looked good. I've actually got the stat here. Let me just pull it up to make sure I got the right numbers. This year, they're shooting 27.6% off of threes in the first round. Last year in the Western Conference Finals, it was 40%. That's a huge difference at the 3 ball. So that's where I'm kind of a little nervous. They're clearly not shooting threes as well as they had previously, and you got to be able to do that. Anthony Edwards and the entire Minnesota team, they look on fire. They look like they have the biggest chip on their shoulder and they have something to prove. Now, I hope that they're playing their quote unquote Super Bowl, or I hope they just finished it against the Suns in the sweep and they come in a little bit tired, but they're going to have some rest. They completed the sweep. They're going to have some rest, and let's hope that the Nuggets can get business done tonight. That way there's no game 6 back in LA. If there ends up being a game 6 for the Denver Nuggets back in LA, we should be very, very concerned about the first round series against the Lakers. I'm just being completely honest. I don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, if they lose here tonight on home court, it's a closeout game and they don't come prepared. Now, Jamal Murray obviously is still questionable. I do not know what time that is going to be released. I'm sure it's going to be a game time decision on what he's going to look like, for shoot around before the game. But that's obviously a little concerning. You need a healthy Jamal Murray to be out there. But I think with you've got your starting 4, and then whoever can hopefully go in and you just got to handle the game tonight. And then hopefully you get Jamal Murray back for round 2. So I will say I'm not too concerned about it. I do think that they will finish it up. But next series, things could be getting a little spicy, that's for sure. Hopefully no chairs are thrown either. But last one, because again, the show is going so freaking fast. Thank you guys for all the comments. We need things to end tonight. Yes, we do. Let's go Nuggets. I also think the Nuggets also play up to better competition. I 100% agree with that. The Nuggets are better. I keep seeing all the comments coming in. So yes, Lakers in 7. Oh my gosh, if that would happen, that'd be crazy. But I do think that the Nuggets play up to their competition and they hear the talk and they know and have heard probably LeBron James, Anthony Davis feel like they're down on themselves too. So I wouldn't put too much worry into it, Nuggets Nation. Just handle it. I know they got one game. We kind of knew that they were going to get one, but I think tonight they will close it out. Moving on. Avs, real quick. Oh, the Avalanche. I don't know what happened. I don't know what changed in the locker room. I don't know who said something, but the differences between game 1 and who they are now is absolutely insane. I don't know if they had a team talk with Georgiev and was like, you know what, we do believe in you, keep holding your own ground, etc. And don't get me wrong, Georgie was to blame a lot in game 1, but defense was also a lot to blame. And I think defensively, they've gotten a lot better. They are doing a much better job of protecting Georgiev in the net. I think overall, they're just moving around a lot more. I feel like a lot of the times in those games where they lost towards the end of the season, they were very stagnant right in front of the net. They weren't moving around. You didn't see guys that were laying out for shots to protect it. You're seeing that now. I saw a few guys who laid out in the net. You're seeing a lot of movement, a lot of pushing and shoving to make sure that other guys are moving too. They're just protecting him, which is what you obviously need. I am really excited for game 5. I was super bummed that I was in Detroit and missed game 3 because like Winnipeg's head coach said yesterday, essentially, they're making their own mistakes, and that's why they're losing. You're putting the Avs on power plays, what it feels like all the time. And on Friday night, we saw that a ton. That's how they were able to score so many goals, is because they kept going on power play. Same thing for last night. They kept going on power play. It is also crazy to me, literally insane to me, that Val Nichushkin got his first ever career hat trick yesterday. How is that even possible? The choo-choo train has been electric. They are a Stanley Cup contender with Val Nichushkin. Without him, they are a 500 team. That is it. Like, it is literally the difference night and day when it comes to the team who they are with Val and who they are without Val. And I cannot believe that he had his first hat trick last night. I can't even compute, you guys. It doesn't make any sense to me. That's just mind-blowing to me. So I was so happy. I heard that he actually went and found the puck. He got it off of the ice and made sure to take it back with him. He's also sneaky good, right? Everybody wanted to talk to Val Nichushkin yesterday, so we're all kind of huddling around his locker waiting for him. And they always crack me up because the equipment guys are always like, "Hey, dude, don't worry about your equipment. I got it." And he's like, "No, no, 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 no. I got this." And he makes sure he's packing up all of his own equipment, and then he takes it into the back room so he didn't have to do any media. So I thought that was funny. I'm like, okay, Val, I see you. You didn't want to talk to anybody. You just wanted to enjoy the moment. And he skedaddled on out of there. But Cale Makar was very humble yesterday, talking about his insane goal as well. And I'm really looking forward to the Jets on Friday or on Tuesday night. These days are all kind of blurring together. This is day 15 of working straight, but it's such a crazy fun time. Also, I saw some videos this morning that Gabriel Landeskog was back out on the ice, on a different ice, and Mikko Rantanen was also out there shooting. Mikko has been really, really quiet this playoff run thus far, so I'm hoping that he'll be able to get in there. But again, you're putting up 5, 6, 7 goals. You just need somebody who can be out there and help be able to produce that. He's been on the assists, etc. So I know he's been relatively quiet when it comes to actually scoring the goals, but they just need him to remain consistent. But going back to Gabe Landeskog, I know the talk has really stopped about him returning to the playoffs, and I'm really happy it has, because it felt like there was a lot of pressure that was being applied to Gabe to return, to be back for them, to if they're able to make a cup run. But his career is so much more than this season alone, and I don't know. I'm just kind of happy that talk has, quieted a lot, because I do feel like they all hear the different things. Jared Bednar even talked about hearing some things that, how the media always says, "Oh, Jared Bednar made so many changes." And he's like, "We don't really make a lot of changes. We just play better hockey." So they all hear what the media is talking about. So I'm glad that talk around Gabe has quieted a little bit. So you guys, it's so much fun. There's so much going on. So thank you always for hanging out with me just a little bit, being able to allow me to sit here and talk sports with you. I also would love to hang out with you guys. So if you are watching us on YouTube before May 10th, make sure you subscribe, and you can be entered in to win a lunch provided by Brothers Barbecue, which yum, who doesn't love Brothers Barbecue? You can hang out with Zach and Phil, watch the drive over there in the 104.3 The Fan Studios. And then you get to come check out our studios over here, which is always fun too. You can hang out with myself, Cecil Lammy, Andrew Mason, James Marilat, Will Peterson, Jake Shapiro, the whole Denver sports team. So I hope you guys enter in to win, because I would love to sit down and chat sports with you. I love reading your comments, but it's always so much fun when you get to actually, sit down and talk about these things in person and hearing your opinion. So love you guys so much. Thank you for spending just a little bit of your time here on this Monday. And we'll be back tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. for another episode of Denver Sports Daily, and right back here at 12 p.m. for coffee break at 12. Have a wonderful Monday, everybody. Let's go Nuggets. Bye.